All right. Hello.
Hi.
All right. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. Welcome to Women Leaders Walk the Talk. I am your host and leadership enthusiast, Kristen Webb, and I like to call myself a leadership enthusiast because I love all things leadership. When you think about it, every aspect of our lives, is being led by someone else, or we're leading our lives. And successes and failures are usually contingent upon the effectiveness of either the formal or informal leadership that we're either providing or that we're being led by. So I personally believe that we should focus more on developing and fine tuning our leadership skills. And that way we would see more successes than failures in almost every aspect of our lives. For those of you who may be joining for the first time, and I promise you it will not be your last, this platform was created for the sole purpose of amplifying the voices of women leaders across a multitude of industries. We are everywhere. We're probably not in as many spaces as we need to be as far as, higher levels of leadership, but women are in every space that you can think of, and the leadership is there as well. And so Women Leaders Walk the Talk was it's programming under my company, the Grady Leadership Series, which is a leadership development and consulting agency. And since I created the company, I found it important to ensure that there was an initiative created to focus on women in leadership. And why? For biased reasons, obviously. Hi, I'm a woman, right? And I lead in a lot of spaces. I lead myself, daily, individually, as a mom, in my organization that I work for daily. Even here with doing the Grady Leadership, I'm always leading. And I think it's extremely important because there should always be the inclusion of all voices in and outside of organizations, our communities, our homes, wherever we are. You definitely want to make sure that you have the inclusion of all voices. So specifically women voices. And this platform helps to strengthen the voices and spaces that may experience muted, meaning that sometimes you don't hear those voices like you should, or in really low volume spaces, low volume voices. So we want to amplify, we want to enhance, we want to increase those voices, those female voices. We want to help encourage the promotion, the uplifting of women leaders in all of the spaces that they exist in. And so I want to help change that. And that's why you have Women Leaders Walk the Talk. So I'm really excited about this evening. You all don't get to see the backstage prepping, like when we're kind of setting up before everything, but tonight's panelists, they will be bringing the energy and the insight that you are looking for. I already know what you're in store for, but you will not be disappointed. So quick disclaimer, the views and opinions of myself and the panelists are strictly just that. They are our views and our opinions and do not reflect the views and opinions of our respective organizations. So I want to make sure I get that out the way. We're going to hear these individual genius thoughts and ideas that belong to them and belong to myself independently. So when I started planning the sessions, I think it's always critical for me to bring on panelists that I know will authentically have valuable information, but more importantly, and I didn't tell these ladies that I'm backstage, but I admire, like, I think it's important that not only do I bring on those who are going to be effective and share information, but I absolutely admire each and every one of you. So I want to make sure I publicly say that. If I could take a piece of each of you, I've been watching some of you for 30 plus years, some for the last couple years, but absolutely you possess things that if I could just kind of feed them into my cells, I'd be so enhanced in many of ways. And I know that what you're going to share and those who are watching tonight absolutely will feel the same way. They're going to walk away feeling empowered, infused. And so again, listeners, audience, you will not be disappointed. Make sure you are dropping your comments, you're leaving your emojis, whatever you want to do in the chat. We look forward to hearing and sharing with you. So tonight's panelists, they cover a wide range of industries. Sometimes we focus on a specific industry, but we have a wide, diverse range of industries tonight, which I love because it offers a unique lens and great diversity. As I said, we have education backgrounds, we've got entrepreneurship, we've got nonprofit, we've got corporate, we've got military, and we've got some others that I haven't mentioned yet that I know we'll get a chance to hear about. So not to mention just their community engagement, as well as their personal experiences, just as individuals and family members and significant others. all of that is going to be offered tonight and helping you on your leadership journey. So with that, I want to introduce these fire starters. That's what I call y'all tonight, fire starters. And when you think about a fire, it can mean destruction, right? But more importantly, it can be used to clear paths to new and fresh beginnings. So think about my fire starters in that way. The paths they have created simply leave the perfect amount of innovation, intelligence, advocacy, support, and absolutely they create destruction of positive change. So that's something you want to keep in mind as we go through tonight. So with that, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to introduce them real quick. I have with me tonight Dr. L. Shay Fanyan with Journey Community Schools, Kenda Lawson with Owls, and Elise Haxtell with Walmart. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Thank you all. Thank you all again for joining us. Oh, and happy Women's History Month. That's really important that I say that. I usually do these every other month, but so we did one in February, but how dare I do not do one for the month of March. So definitely want to make sure I brought on some phenomenal women. So glad you're joining, and I cannot wait for us to hear from you. So let's jump right in. Let's take about 1 minute or less. If you all could just sort of introduce yourselves to the audience, whatever you'd like to share, just so we can get to know a little bit more about you and get a feel for where we're going to be traveling today. Jump right in, no order.
Okay, I'll go. Hello, everybody. I'm Kenda Lawson. I'm the founder and CEO of Owls Education. We are a consulting firm, or I'm sorry, that's at least how we started out. Here lately, our mission has, basically driven us to share information that we have about not just education, but entrepreneurship in a lot of different ways. I'm also the executive producer of the Startup Life podcast. So I think I might have a little bit to do with that entrepreneurial sort of idea that you kicked in there. I don't know what else to say. You just you set the bar so high,
Oh no, you all said it. You said it, Kenda.
But I'm sure I'll think of something I was supposed to say later. So
thank you for that. All right, who's next, Elise or Shay?
Go ahead, Shay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Shay Fanyan. I am a native Memphian, born and raised in the community called Orange Mound, just where I call home for so many years. Right now, I am the managing director for Special Populations and Student Services with Journey Community Schools here in Memphis. And so that includes supporting students with disabilities, English language learners, pre-K, discipline, attendance, all things that relates to student services and development. And I'm just super excited to be here tonight with these lovely and awesome leaders. And you said fire starters, so I'm ready.
Start some fires. What about you, Elise?
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Elise. I also am from Memphis, connected to Kristen through high school. So I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity, but also staying connected as we've matured. And I currently am a district manager for Walmart Neighborhood Markets. I'm based in South Central Georgia, so I've got 16 locations there. And basically, I'm responsible for all their operations. So store overall profitability, sales. I'm a 12-year Army veteran, West Point graduate, and excited about this evening. Really looking forward to talking about leadership and getting to know more about both Dr. Shay and Kenda.
So I couldn't have said that. I could have tried to introduce you all, but you all did a fine job. And I hope everybody heard those creds, right? We could call titles and everything, but again, these women are absolutely walking exactly what they talk. We can look at their titles, we could say doctor, we could say executive, we could say managers, entrepreneurs, but they simply are just individuals and human beings that are just really making a mark on society in a positive way. And that's really, really critical, not to mention you all are ladies and women. And so I love that you all are here. So at the beginning of each session, if you haven't seen in some of the, previous episodes, I like to play the 3-second rule. We've heard of the 5-second rule when you can pick up food that fell on the floor and nobody judges you, but we're going to play the 3-second rule on this episode of Leaders Walk the Talk. And so you got 3 seconds to give me one word that you would like to use to describe leadership. Don't want the why, I don't want the why yet. I just want your one word to describe leadership. So on the count of three, 1, 2, 3, and go. Service, okay.
Authentic.
Empathy.
All right, service. Give me yours, Elise, again.
Authentic.
Authentic, yes. And yours again, Kenda?
Empathy.
Empathy. Those are all really good ones. And so now I want the whys. Tell me why you selected the words you selected.
For me, I selected service because I think it's important to be a servant leader. Like no one really goes, hopefully, into leadership about self, right? You're there to provide a service, support, to be an advocate, to bring about a difference, opportunities. And I think when you have a lens of service, you keep your customers at the forefront. For me, be it students, be it parents, be it teachers, principals, etc. Like you seek to serve to meet their needs.
I love it. And I'm biased to that one either as well, because that's one of the 4 core values for the Greater You Leadership series. But I wholeheartedly agree with you, because if you're getting into leadership for selfish reasons, you better sign up for something else, because it will quickly show you that that's not what you need to be doing, because leadership is about the people, it's about your customers, it's about the overall mission of what you're supposed to be accomplishing, and has absolutely nothing to do with you. You know, there's some things that are byproducts that may be rewarding, you know, as an individual, but definitely it's about serving others and being willing to be selfless. So love that. Elise, Kenda, what about your words?
So my word was authentic, a word I really live by, and I think I've always lived by. And for me, I think that as a leader, if you're not authentic, you don't have believability from your team. You don't have vulnerability also from your team. I think as a authentic leader, that is someone that people will follow despite the struggles that may go along with it, despite the difficulties that they may be faced with, or the challenges. And it gives them something to aspire for, because they know you're bringing your best version of yourself every day. So if your best version of yourself, if you're given the opportunity to lead people, and your best version of yourself is one that is authentic, that means you're genuine. You don't sell yourself out, or do something just because others expect you to do, but because it's the right thing to do, then you have a much greater chance of success, in my opinion.
And very good opinion, because not only that, when you're talking about leading and people wanting to trust and have the loyalty, that they will snuff out someone who is not genuine and authentic in a minute. And you're much, like you said, you're quick to find failures, and that'll happen just because you weren't authentic, and they don't see that type of leader in you. So love it. Kenda?
Well, I think empathy is really grounded in both, service as well. I think ultimately the reason why things really it resonates with me is because I think basically empathy is the first stage of design thinking, right? So anytime you set out to accomplish something, and I think a leader has to have that. They have to have purpose and a mission. And so the first step of that really is to empathize with your customers, but also to empathize with the people that you lead. I think all of us have probably had the experience where we've had a person that was in a position of authority, but understood that that was not the same thing as leadership. And sometimes that comes from this disconnect of not remembering where you were, what it was like to be the new person in a company or come into this field. And so I just really think I try to keep focused, and I try to keep that at the heart of what I do when I'm interacting with staff or collaborating with others. And definitely for me, since I work in education, really just keeping that focus on the students, but also the teachers that I serve.
I love it. The root and remembering where you were once upon a time. I love that messaging. And the reason I ask for the one word, or I do the 3-second rule, is because we will hear that threaded throughout the conversation. Usually that first thing that comes to mind really is what generally resonates with you, and it's how you act, and it's how you move through your purpose and your passion each and every day as a leader, as a family member, whatever it is, whatever that role is for you. Those things usually are threaded throughout your life. And so I'll be looking forward to hearing service, empathy, and authenticity as we continue in the conversation tonight. So thank you for that, ladies. So I'd like to definitely make sure we get opportunity to kind of hear more about your leadership journeys. So that's the next question I have. If you all could just share, and you can do it as succinctly as possible, if that's even possible, because I'm sure there's so much story behind, how we get to our leadership roles or our existing spaces today. So just who wants to go first? I'd love to hear your leadership journey.
I can start. So my leadership journey started when I was a very little girl, raised by a single mother of 4 girls, and I have a twin sister, and we were the youngest. And we had to learn very early that one, nothing was going to be given to us, that we had to work hard, and that despite your circumstances, that does not dictate your outcome. So very early, my mother instilled in us that we needed to be respectful, but also make a future for ourselves because it wasn't going to be given to us. So having to work hard in high school, I participated in track, then kind of stumbled upon West Point, quite frankly. I wasn't planning to go to West Point. There was an opportunity that was presented to me and it sounded fantastic. And I said, hey, that's a great education. It will set me up for success for the future. And I took it on. So went to West Point, and of course, you can imagine a military college. It's all about discipline. It's all about leadership. It's all about learning to challenge yourselves and push through when you feel that you can't make it anymore. So from there, that is kind of the fiber of who I am. I transitioned into the reserves, and as I transitioned into the reserves, I transitioned into my job with Walmart, and Walmart picked me. They selected me because of my leadership experience. Obviously, that was what got me to the door, but being authentic and being able to bring a true version of myself to every portion of the interview is what gave me the opportunity to continue with them. And I did that concurrently with the reserves. And once I transitioned out of the reserves, I remained with Walmart as my main priority. And I was afforded so many opportunities to be in a space with leaders that were advocates for me, leaders that were found value in my experience in leadership, but also were willing to teach and develop me to become a Walmart leader and a person that knew Walmart policy and Walmart programs. I started out in store operations and then went into HR, which was the field that I had in the Army. And then from there, I went back into field operations, into the role that I have now. And for my journey, I am so thankful that I've had supervisors and leaders that advocated behind closed doors where I didn't know, but also advocated when I did know, so that I could be able to go into organizations or go into a spot where I was able to develop my team and also develop others. I've been fortunate to be able to figure out the things that I need to do to keep my regular, pay my bills job, my main role function at Walmart succinct, but also be able to connect in multiple organizations within the company, from our military programs to our mentorship programs to our associate engagement events that we can do locally. And it's really been a fantastic journey. And again, it's all been about being confident in what I wanted and being able to speak that, but also being successful and results driven. Because what I will say is, throughout my entire leadership journey, meeting results and exceeding standards has been a requirement. So it's really helped me to set myself up for success and ask for the assistance I needed to be successful long term.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so everybody knows I always have a notebook, and I have taken like almost half a page just on your story, Lisa. But what I loved is a lot of times, and I ask this question sometimes, were you born a leader? Have you always seen yourself as a leader? And a lot of times when we do find ourselves in those formal roles, it's because it existed in us well back once upon a time, right? And you talked about starting with, your mom and the characteristics and the skills and the awareness that was brought to you at that age, and how it just, seemed to continue to catapult going forward. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. I've got a lot of good notes. Thank you so much. Kenda, Shay?
Yeah, I'll go because I guess I'll present the exact opposite of that.
Come on, we need it. We need it.
Which, if you wanted it succinctly, I would probably say one word to describe my leadership journey was reluctant. I'm the poster child for you never know what God has in store for you, because if you had asked me at many steps of my life, I would be like, yeah, I don't need to lead people. That's not a, it's not a question I need answered. But as I look back, I realized, like, now that I've come to this place, that it was always there. And I was just really fortunate to always been a place where somebody else recognized it and kind of pushed me out of my comfort zone. And like, it's weird that, now I talk to people that I remember from high school, but I don't have the same recollection that they're like, I was in this group with you, or I was on this team with you. And I just remember being very like inspired. And I was just like, oh, okay. Like that's kind of awesome. But I think, I think I should be representative for people who might be out there that are just thinking like, who am I to do this? Because that's been a process, a very real thing that I have had to deal with, had to struggle with. When I was little, the models that I saw, and it probably has a lot to do with why the work that I do serves children of trauma, because that is who I am. And so sometimes when you grow up and you see a lot of what you see is victimization, you don't necessarily believe that you get to go and be a hero, which, a lot of the work that I do now is about superheroes. I'm the superhero lady. And, but part of that is why is I want people to know that, you can be in this place and not feel like you have the skills, or not feel like you have the voice, because you don't stand out in a crowd or whatever. And, but yeah, you can be. So, it probably started somewhere when I was in ROTC, and I didn't lead many teams, but I ended up being the captain of the land navigation team. My husband was the captain of everything else, like literally, literally. But he ends up on my team where I'm the captain of this one little thing, land navigation, that requires this very specific and kind of nerdy skill set, right? And so that was maybe one experience that I could think of when I was really young, but most of the time, it was a real thing to just be dealing with what I was dealing with. And I think because of that, it's important for people to recognize that you can have your own personal brand of leadership, like what Stephen Covey would call personal leadership. And I think I developed that very well as a child of trauma, right? I can't control everything, but I can control myself. I can control the way that I look at the world. I can choose to be optimistic. The public leadership, like I said, that part took a while to kind of come on. But I was very fortunate to have mentors and people and employers and bosses who were like, this is what you're going to do. Like, not ask me, like, this is what you're going to do. Don't worry about it. You'll figure it out. And I did. This position now, again, I didn't set out to be a boss. Even in today, the people that I work with, I don't really see myself as their boss. I see myself as in this leadership position, having started this company, but my role is to lead leaders. I want everybody that's there to be strong. I want them to voice their opinions. I want a very kind of horizontal kind of leadership structure. It's really important for me to feel like, people feel comfortable talking to me, that a lot of things don't get in the way. And I think that's possible. I think it becomes difficult the bigger the company gets. But as long as we're small, we want to be scrappy, we want to be innovative. And that requires, I think I'm a good fit for that leadership style, So everything after that has really just been a process of me just starting to own that, just to say, okay, I have ideas to share. I ended up writing this thing in Entrepreneur Magazine. So all of a sudden now, I get these speaking engagements and I'm going to be giving a keynote address and that sort of thing. So it's all been a wild ride, but very reluctant. But this year and the past few years, just leaving the classroom where I had a very controlled kind of leadership, right? Like my students, it was my space. I planned everything down to the T, to the last 7 years, founding Owls, stepping out on faith, not really knowing what was going to happen. It's really just been, a process of kind of owning that public space.
I love that.
I
love that. The transparency of the reluctancy, because so many times I think we do, and someone in the chat said, having that perspective, so many times we hear people say, oh, I chose leadership. I knew I was going to be a leader, but to hear the authenticity and the transparency of, I didn't want this. This is not what I signed up for. But what I heard in both you and Elise's journey, and I'm coming right to you, Shay, is that someone else saw it in you. And that's when you know you really have those leadership traits, right? When people identify it, and then when you own it, Kenda, that's what I really liked, is that, identifying it and then owning what's there and then executing from there. So thank you for sharing that story. What about you, Shay?
For me, from a very young age, I was always able to see inequities.
Mm,
If we went to Hickory Hill at the time, like, why does their community look like this? Why do they have this level of access and we don't? Or being in school, it's like, why am I in the optional program, right? And they
mm,
are not. Why do I have access to these classes when the students who are from Binghamton do not? Or going to boarding school at Andover, it's like, oh, who are these kids and why do they have access to this stellar education? And I'm coming from an optional school, but looks very different in terms of the
mm-hmm,
rigor. And I think that level of identifying inequities that existed just did not sit right with me, even when I benefited from the privilege of those different circumstances. And I stumbled into leadership, similar to Kendall, like being pushed into it. I was a third year teacher, and I was teaching students with disabilities who about 90% were also English language learners. And we were preparing for our state writing assessment. Keep in mind, many of my students were new to the country and had not really started to learn how to communicate well enough to take a state writing assessment. And so I took it upon myself, like as a bright-eyed teacher, to say, hey, I'm going to petition the Georgia Department of Education because my students were not only need, they deserve access to the state assessment just as their English speaking peers and their peers who do not have disabilities. And so I wrote this long dissertation to the State Board of Education, and they called back to my superintendent. Now, this is a large district outside of Atlanta. And they're like, hey, we received a petition from your school district. And of course, he's like, well, I didn't write the petition, and I didn't give anybody the authority to write the petition on our behalf. So who wrote the petition? And so I was calling to my principal's office. He was sitting there, she was sitting there, and they're like, why did you write this petition? Like, you didn't have permission. And so I just, at that point, argued my point. Like, they do not have access. We're asking them to sit through this long state assessment without equitable accommodations. Long story short, he allowed me to work with our then legal team to just put forth the petition with the district's grace. It was denied, but I think it opened a conversation up around equitable access to state assessments and what changes needed to be made to level the playing field for all students in Georgia. And from that time, my principal said, you need to get out of the classroom. Like, if you have enough fight to take it upon yourself to advocate for students at the state level, and then get ownership from your superintendent of district, like, you deserve to go and fight for more students with disabilities who are also English language learners. And I was very apprehensive. One, I was very comfortable teaching. I loved my students. I loved my school. And I think early on, I had a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, am I ready? Am I good enough? Like, this is my third year teaching. Everyone is older than me. They have more experience. But one of the things my principal shared was, like, leadership is not about position. It's about being fearless. It's about courage. It's about influence. It's about advocacy. It's about
mm-hmm,
service.
mm-hmm,
And you have those skill sets that need to be applied on a larger scale. So that was like my entry into a formal leadership position. And so I transitioned to serve at our district level, where I supported students with disabilities across multiple school sites and loved it. Like, my first teacher I managed was like probably my mother's age, but she was one of my favorite teachers I coached. and manage because she wanted to learn so much. And I just think since that time, every role I've served in has been about either advocacy or fighting for the underdogs who don't always have access. And it's about like giving them the access they need so they can be competitive, right? So they can have access to post-secondary opportunities. So they can have a rigorous learning environment because like our students are not only competing with students in Orange Mound or Birmingham or Memphis, boarding schools show me that students are competing globally. And so if I can do that work as an advocate through leadership, like sign me up, right? And I just leaned into it.
I love it. And like I said, the one word that you all gave earlier was gonna, be that common thread. So service from the jump, all the way back in high school. And I remember when you went to Andover, and I was a little jelly. I was like, oh my God, she gets to go, she gets to go off to this, other state up north. But just watching your journey and knowing that, you did have greater access. So I definitely feel how you saw those inequities. But it looks like you just had a keen eye for that. And always wanted to fight for that. So I definitely can appreciate hearing that service all along the way. And so each of those stories I've absolutely enjoyed. And I now have a full page of notes between all three of you. And Shay, you actually stole my next question. I believe we all get what we deserve, right? What you put in is what you get out. I believe it wholeheartedly. And oftentimes, and I'll even say specifically with women, I think we do tend to say, well, how come I got that promotion? Am I really equipped? Am I going to do a good job? And it simply, amounts to the imposter syndrome that you mentioned. And so whether you've experienced it or not, maybe you've seen it. I just wanted to get you all's perspective on how do you come out of that? Because it sounds like we've overcome that to a degree, Shay. I hear that you've gotten past that moment. And I just want to get feedback for the audience, if you're experiencing that, and it could be something that you could fall back into, maybe not us specifically, but sometimes you may rest back into it and you need to come out of it. How do you advise other women to get past that? Don't let our backgrounds and our experiences drive us into those spaces. Ooh, and Kenda's raising her finger.
Yeah, I'm ready for this.
Come on. We're going to start with you, Kenda. Right. Come on.
Okay. So first, I just want to push back a little bit. I don't believe you always get what you deserve. I think sometimes you get what you accept.
Yeah. Okay. Agreed.
And I think long term, it's very true that if it's for you, it's going to come. But a lot of times we can miss that when that moment comes and it stares us in the face. And Kristen, I know you have a saying for this, right? What is it about? What is about greatness?
Oh yeah, you don't. You don't stumble upon greatness. You walk up to it and introduce yourself. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so I've been thinking about this a lot, right? I'm writing a book called Activating Kids' Superpowers, and one of the things that I'm exploring, and I really would encourage all women to really think about, is whether or not that doubt is really you. I think sometimes we kind of have this voice, and I think for everybody that voice is somebody specific and somebody different, right? Somebody who's said, basically, who do you think you are? And we just internalized it. And so sometimes I really think about the fact of superhero lady. So it's going to be a superhero metaphor, right? People look at, superheroes, right? They think about Superman, right? And they see him in this big, bright costume, flying around, showing all these abilities and that sort of thing. And it's really easy to look at Superman like that's the costume. But Clark Kent is actually the mask, right? He's the thing that you pull on because you think this is what society wants you to be, right? This is what makes everybody around you comfortable. This is what, keeps you from having to stand out, stand up, and really do some other work. But the real you really is that person that just like, you're not trying to show off. Those are your abilities. And so you just really have to step into it and you have to own it. So imposter syndrome should only make sense when you are posing, right?
Absolutely.
It only makes sense when really there's not something there to back it up. And so one of the things I really just came up with a mantra to remind myself is that the difference between arrogance and confidence is evidence. Right? So if you, and we tend to have so much evidence, right? I have the hardest time, and this is not to say I don't struggle with it, because I really do. But, I have the hardest time introducing myself, thinking of something to say, and then go back and look at a resume, or somebody will remind me, you did that, right? Like, yeah, that happened. And so if you want to adopt mine, fine, but come up with something so that you remind yourself when whoever's voice it is you're hearing in your head start talking, that the difference between confidence and arrogance is evidence, and you have all kind of evidences.
Ooh, thank you for jumping right in there, and thank you
Right.
for pushing. I mean,
Right.
we need to hear all of the perspectives. So absolutely, thank you, thank you. Elise, Shay, anything?
So I certainly think that happens often. I do believe that people do what you allow. I tell my team that all the time. And it applies to every single walk of life, whether it's a personal or professional relationship. And I've had an experience myself. I've also experienced that with some of my leaders where I've had to say, look, everybody sees your greatness except for you, but I can't see it for you. So I think what happens oftentimes in my whole professional career has been in a very uh, male dominant arena, and that doesn't take away from any other profession, but it required me to step back and make sure that I could stand on my own despite whatever everyone else was saying. I don't have to prove what I've done because I've already done it and I walk in it. So it goes back to that authenticity and not comparing yourself to others as well. Oftentimes you think, I'm going to go to this interview. Oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to do well. What am I going to say? Talk about yourself. It's a conversation about the wonderful things you've done to earn you the opportunity to take on this role. So when you change your thought process about a new adventure, whether again it's personal or professional, you become that person you need to be because it's already there. It's not someone you're trying to create or somebody you're trying to fake it. And the reality is people see through it. A lot of when I did, distinctly remember an interview I did, and the interviewing manager said, "You have likability," and I think at the time I was like, I don't care if people like me. That's honestly what I thought. Didn't matter if people like me. Am I qualified or am I the right person for this position? But I've changed that thought in that not maybe the word choice was wrong for me for how I received it. However, it is important for you to be in a field or in an arena where people can relate, which is in many terms being likable. Do people agree with your thought process? Do people find something that they can latch onto? And when you realize what that is, it's magic because you never go into a situation and wonder, did I get my point across? Because either A, you'll see it in your people's eyes or the individuals you're speaking to, or B, if you're a great leader, you'll seek feedback. I tell my team literally just on Tuesday, hey, folks, if I'm doing something that's disrupting your day or creating extra stress, and because I feel like it's important for me to do because I think it's something you should do, but the timing may not be right. I'm okay if you tell me because at the end of the day, your success is my success. And if I'm creating a barrier for you that you can't move past, or just a little bit of stress in your day can change your whole outlook on the whole week or the day or for the month or when you're at home, always thinking about the beyond that moment with them and realizing that, hey, if I'm looking to truly gauge my team and truly develop leaders and develop people who want to do more in their respective rights, I have to be able to show my own confidence and show my own skill, but also be willing to show, hey, I don't know everything. So it's okay to ask someone that reports to you how to do something. I learned that very early in my career. I came to Walmart clueless on retail outside of my wonderful years working at Old Navy. But outside of that, right? Outside of that, I didn't know about store operations, but what I did know was how to lead. And I also knew my drill sergeants told me, young officer, you don't know what you're talking about. So we've been doing this for probably a decade or at least 5 years before you came into this show. You might have the rank, but I've got the knowledge, and that's completely okay. And I promise you, from in my teens or my early 20s, I continue to think about that and continue to learn from anyone. And that's where really what you have to do when you're going into a new space or you're trying to figure out, is this meant for me? Because it will be for you if you accept it and you work towards it and you prepare yourself for that opportunity.
Love it, love it. So the word I got out of that was strategy. I hope y'all are listening,
Oh,
because y'all are
yeah.
getting strategy on
Yes.
how to get past your own self.
Yes.
And that's what I'm hearing, getting past your own self. Absolutely. Thank you for that, Elise. Shay?
Yes, I can add so much to this topic. I think first,
Right.
self-talk, like our own self-talk, is the first voice to hear. And that voice should be one of encouragement. Like, you should be your biggest cheerleader, your CMO, chief marketing officer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think oftentimes we encounter imposter syndrome because sometimes our voice is not always the positive voice we need to hear, or we think we are not enough, or we're comparing ourselves to each other. But both the sun and the moon shine at different times, right? They both have their purpose. And I think it's about comfort. Like, for me as a teacher, I was comfortable, right? I knew if I step into a leadership role, that requires me to become uncomfortable to become competent in my new role. And that takes humility, one, to say, okay, I'm stepping into somewhere new. I'm not going to know everything, right? And so you battle with excellence versus perfection. And I think the desire to be a perfectionist can paralyze people because you will never be ready for the next breakthrough. It's going to force you to grow and develop into that role. And that can be scary, right? It's like, oh God, I'm going from what I'm comfortable to something new. I don't know these people. I don't know everything. But you have to be willing to be a lifelong learner. And just as Elise said, like, if you don't know something, don't pretend you know, just ask or say, hey, I don't know, but I will find the answer and figure it out for you. And so I think that that is very important. And then a few years ago, I read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In.
Mm-hmm.
Completely changed my life on women in leadership and how we often undersell ourselves around which jobs we apply to because we're missing one qualifying piece of experience, or how much money we ask for when it's time to talk about salaries. Like, we tend to lowball ourselves, whereas men ask for more. Or if we see, oh, they asked for 7 years, I only have 5, we don't apply, but men apply anyway, right? And they may get the job because they were arrogant or overly confident without the evidence sometimes, Elise. And so I think, like, sometimes we have to be willing to bet on ourselves. And I always say too, like, if the Lord brings me to something, he's going to bring you through something. I think you have to have that confidence and that faith to know, like, what's meant for you, it's yours, right? And you have to just lean into it, accept it, advocate for it. But I think above all, you have to be the positive voice, because as Black women, we get a many no's, a many not yet, a many it's not your time, a minute like just wait a little longer or get a little more experience or do this or do that. And it's like, no, like, we deserve to be here at this table. And I think secondly, like, once we get there, we have to also build a table for other women who may have also encountered that same imposter syndrome to say, you are enough, right? So I just think, like, being that positive voice, leaning in, helping others, like, those things have to be there.
I love it. So all of that was awesome, awesome. And I'm looking at time. I tell you, we need more. We're gonna do a part 2, ladies. We're gonna do a part 2. But I got some more. So let me ask this one. Okay. You're building an all-star leadership team. Okay, that's the question. You need 3 people on your team. Who do you have?
You mean like names or
Names,
skills?
people, characters, however you want to give it.
So I'll give skills.
Okay.
I think building a team requires skills. I don't care what you look like, where you're from. You have to have certain skill sets. So to me, one, you have to be strategic. So I need someone who is strategic, not just thinking in the moment, but you're thinking about, what do I need to do to make myself or this portion of the business successful next year, 2 years, 10 years down the road. You also need a person that is a self-starter. I don't have time to tell you what to do every day when you're getting paid to do what you do every day, right? So I tell my team all the time, we are paid to execute. And if I have to think it for you, if I have to do it for you, then unfortunately you're not a fit for the team. So strategic, self self starter, and finally a self motivator, because sometimes it's hard, right? Today I had a hard day at work, and I was talking to one of my managers, and the reality is no matter what's going on, life always goes on. There's somebody getting bad news. There's somebody that didn't wake up this morning. There's someone who messed up in a major way. And beyond that, you're still here. So you can't get caught up in the moment and let that stop you from proceeding forward, because there's still an expectation for you to deliver. I have a 13-year-old, so I can't wake up tomorrow and be like, you know what, Elaine, I'm not really feeling this mom thing today. Just fend for yourself this week. And she's super independent, but at the end of the day, we have to be able to push forward and continue on in spite of. So for me, it's a strategic leader, it's a self motivator, and a self starter.
Love it. Love it. All right. Kenda, what's your team look like? No, let me go. I'm sorry. Let me go to Shay. Shay, what does your team look like?
I have to say I have more than 3 things.
Hey,
Hey, that's the operator in me. Keep it simple now. Keep it simple. You can't have 20 things because you can only do a certain amount.
Right. So like similar to Elise, like I thought along the lines of like skills. So like I have to have a team I can trust, vulnerable with. I need a team who I can have some healthy conflict with. Like I don't need yes men on my team, because not everything is always a yes. And you need some people to tell you no, or you need those no men on your team. I said a team who's going to hold me accountable and themselves accountable to the results and the excellence we so desire. So who's also vulnerable to say, hey, Shay, I don't know what this is, or I need help with this, so we can make sure the work is getting done. I think people who have balance is critically important. Like I think it's important to be beast mode at work, but it's more important to be beast mode for self, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you're tired and exhausted, the work is not going to be its best. And then someone who likes to have fun. Like work is challenging enough. Like I need some joy. I like to laugh at work. So I think that keeps it fun. It helps reduce the stress. So yeah, those are top.
I love it. So I definitely love the fun, because a lot of times we are so caught up in the mission and where we're trying to get in the grind, and that everybody do their productivity, that kind of thing. But you got to have that lightness, because at the end of the day, we're all human, and we're not always, we're not these robots, and we've got to be able to let our hair down. So I love that, because I will tell my team, I will be the silliest thing in the office, just to keep us, not going. I don't want to go insane, so if I can help them, stay a little sane, but just letting our hair down. Next week, we're going to be celebrating procurement month, making sure that we're having those moments of celebrating ourselves and acknowledging the wins. And a lot of times you can do that through fun. And then I also love the healthy conflict, because a lot of people think conflict doesn't create results, or they steer away from it because of the tension that may happen amongst it. But you need those people that are going to challenge, because some of the best ideas come out of challenge, come out of conflict. The best resolutions come out of that. So I can appreciate that. Kendall, what's your team look like?
Well, I had to cross out a lot of stuff though, so I'm gonna try to come up with something different. Okay,
Not superhero.
On the spot, so to test myself, because it would really be a lot. It really would be a lot, like Elise and Dr. Shay have actually said. So I believe in balance. I think that's a really, really good thing too, and I think it applies to the team as well as the person. So I know that I'm very introverted, and I can be very analytical and just literally think a problem to death, So I definitely know that I need people who balance that out and are going to be more decisive, that are going to be more extroverted, that are going to be able to, do that. But one of the things that's a must, no matter kind of what those like personalities are, is, our team, you have to be creative and you have to be a critical thinker. When you're an entrepreneur, there is just no other alternative, right? You have to be able to come up with solutions to things, and there's not necessarily a person who specializes in this, right? We're starting to get to that place, but in the beginning, it's really just like, hey, you got to just figure out what you can do, right? And that can be just based on belief, sheer belief, right? I'm willing to accept no evidence for this, right? Just to say, hey, I think I can do this. I think we can do this. And it's like, okay, let's do it then. Sometimes you don't know until you know. You don't know what you're capable of until you're out there. So I think that's really important. Just being flexible, being able to just navigate different challenges, and just somebody just going to step in there and say, they're not afraid of the F word. They're not afraid of failure. Like, that's one thing that you definitely cannot be. It's not going to work out. I would say that's probably true for all entrepreneurs, but definitely business owners. You can't be afraid to fail, right? That's going to be your best learning opportunities. That's where we're going to have growth, and that's where we're going to figure out, like, where there's all this room. And so, those are really big things for me.
Love it, because failure is the inevitable. Similar to change, failure is the inevitable. The goal is to be strategic, to be creative, to have those critical thinkers, and all of the different team characteristics that you all gave, so that you can minimize the failure, obviously, right? But I think that's really good, embracing that it's possible for it to happen, but how do we bounce back? How do we become resilient in being able to move forward? So I love that. You all's team sound very sound. I'll join a team if you all hire me. I'll be on the team. So I did want to ask this question before we get ready to close out. What's one thing to a young woman, or to a woman or a young lady seeking and aspiring to be a leader? What's the one thing that you all would share with them for advice or to embrace? Just one.
I can start. I think for me, I would just say, know your why. Lead from your why.
I like it. Know your why.
I guess I'll go next. I will say, believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself. Know your why. What about you, Kenda?
I would say lead from anywhere.
I like that. Lead from anywhere.
Explain a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, come on.
Well, I think sometimes people say, like, you can't lead from behind, but yeah, you can. And sometimes you have to. Sometimes it's the best vantage point from which to see, like, you making sure nobody falls behind. If you're way out front and you never really are stopping to look back. I actually have the opportunity to do this, so I'm also testing out some material, y'all.
Come on.
Appreciate
That's all right.
Hey. We'll be the guinea pig. Come on.
Commissioner Shalia Harris has asked me to speak to some young people, and so I got to talk to them about leadership. And so what I planned to say was that, you really should be able to lead from anywhere. And sometimes the hardest thing is to lead from beside. It gets to be really easy to be out in front. And I think a lot of times when people say you can't lead from behind, they're not really talking about leaders. They're talking about people who hide behind, other people. So they have excuses for why there was failure, or why, something hasn't been met. But I think leading from beside is the hardest thing, because it does require humility and empathy, for others. So.
All right, that audience is going to be wild, just to let you know. Good practice. Great practice. No, but that's a really good point, being able to lead wherever you are, from any space, in any position. So I definitely can appreciate that. So when I say I have been fulfilled this evening, I've had a long day. I can't even tell you some of the technical stuff that was going on before I jumped on, what I had to deal with at work, just very robust and comprehensive day. But this was exactly what I need. Perfect for a Friday Eve. And it's an understatement how much I've enjoyed myself. So I know I'm going to stay connected to each of you, right? I got the direct line. Everybody else may not have a direct line on here, but I got the direct line to each of you. But I want you all to share with the audience, how can they connect with you for your services or insight, or just simply to be motivated by your leadership? And it could be a social media handle, if you want to give that 1-800 number, whatever it is, or a website. How can we all make sure we stay connected with you so we can continue to follow your awesome leadership?
So for me, it is Elise _@_ Walmart. and that's Facebook and Instagram. And from and my professional LinkedIn is Elise Hackstall. So I'm totally excited about connecting with people. And I think it's important to remember that the connections you make, as small as you may think they are, can lead to so many great things. So thank you, Kristen, for this opportunity for us to share our own leadership philosophies, learn from one another. You ladies were fantastic to be a part of this conversation with, and looking forward to many more in the future.
Awesome. All right, that's plug number one. Who else we got? Shay, Kendall?
Or you can reach me at l.shay, S-H-A, .fanion, F-A-N-I-O-N, @gmail.com, or on LinkedIn, L. Shay Fanion.
All right, awesome.
Okay, I don't have all my social media stuff memorized, but I know I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I'm Kendall Lawson, and yeah, I'm pretty sure you can look me up, and I will be happy if you do. I'm always happy to connect, and anything I can share, anything I can answer. I'm a real world teacher. I love to share information. Thank you guys so much for letting me be a part of this panel. I know I'm a little bit on the outside.
No, you're not.
Not at all.
Not at all.
You are honorary Mustang for the night.
Right,
you need to
right.
Honorary
You'll be a Mustang for
Damn.
now. You know.
I don't think the Longhorns are having that. I don't think the Longhorns are having
Okay.
But no, you guys are awesome. And I've already, I think I followed all of you guys, or Kristen, obviously, you know, I was part of your first leadership service session, and that was life-changing for me. So I just really appreciate you thinking about me and having this opportunity to talk to you two ladies as well.
Absolutely. And I must say, viewers, thank you all for joining us tonight. Be sure to connect with these ladies. Remember, a resource is only a resource if you use it. So you can sit here and listen all night, but they are truly authentic fire starters, as I mentioned earlier. And I know when they share that information with you, how you can connect, please do so. In the meantime, if you enjoyed tonight's event in this session, I want you to connect with me with the Greater You Leadership Series for more great content. You can subscribe to our website at www.thegreateryouleadership.com. You can visit, like, and share us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at the social media handle at The Greater You Leadership. We will be back in May because, as I said, we normally do this every other month. So we're going to come back and celebrate some moms as well as women in leadership. So stay tuned and plugged in. Is there anything else I need to say, ladies?
Can I just say thank you to my family for joining, my Walmart family. You all came out strong, my store managers, my market team, and my sisters and other family members. Thank you all for joining and for supporting me, my friends and loved ones. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, that is it for tonight, everyone. And as I always like to encourage each and every one of you, when I finish and end, let's lead. See you next time.